So recently, Ian Flynn, on one of his recent BumbleKast Q&As, was asked a question, he and his co-host, about how they would incorporate Sally into the IDW books. Now, yes, this has been asked before, but the way it was asked basically is the person wanted to know, like, from a perspective of, let's say, IDW, Sega themselves, kind of wondering, why don't we have this character in there? How can we get this character in, and all that? And the answer they gave, I thought, was very well conceived. Basically, long story short, and I'll provide hopefully some links so you guys can listen to it yourself. Long story short, they basically put it out in a way that, storyline wise, Sonic would know who Sally is. Like, he has history with her, but the way he would run into her is, him and I would assume other characters like maybe Amy and Tangle or Tails would, meet up with her or bump into her on a similar mission. And that from a story perspective, and this is kind of the gist of the idea that they were throwing out there, Sonic would be the only one who would know who she is, while the others wouldn't know. Like, maybe they may have heard stories, maybe about Sonic encountering other people, other characters, other, places that had basically the similar goal like they did, and had similar groups. So the gist I'm getting from it is, that they were presenting, to answer this question was Sonic would know who she is, but storyline wise, Amy, Tails, Tangle, Whisper, they wouldn't know who she is. Like, maybe Tails and Amy may have heard about her by name, but not really know who she actually is until this moment. So, yeah, I could see, an idea like that actually being a reality, a legitimate reality of trying to bring the character in. Establish the fact that she has history with Sonic, probably longer history with Sonic than, he has with Tails and Amy, and then build from there. But then afterwards, you don't bring her back for a while. They didn't actually go that far. They just kind of came up with the idea of how she would be incorporated in. But, basically they did give the idea that over time, they could bring in the other characters. But you want to start slowly with someone like Sally, who's very popular, with a lot of fans all across the board, and how she would make her debut and appearance in the book. Now, I think the other detail that they gave is she wouldn't be, design-wise, she wouldn't be that different from the Sally we saw in the reboot, soft reboot, if you will, that started with 252 in Archie Sonic. That she'd pretty much be the same. There might be some slight redesigns, but she'd pretty much be the same. So, upon hearing this, and again, I'll provide the links down below so you can, hear the two parts yourself. I'm cool with this kind of an idea becoming, actually becoming an actual reality. I really am. I like the idea that she'll, that having Sonic from a storyline standpoint knows who she is, has a history, if not longer history with her than, Amy and Tails. And then, at the same time, you have her interacting with this version of Amy and Tails to kind of feel them in on how she knows Sonic, and maybe even introduce herself to Tangle, who, for comedic purposes, you could have Tangle get fangirly over her, going like, "Oh my gosh, you're a friend of Sonic. You know him better. Oh, you gotta, you gotta let me hang out with you." Kind of do, kind of similar like what she did with Blaze, when she first met Blaze. So yeah, you can have interaction between them in that kind of a scenario. But again, I agree with this direction that they would go with. I like the idea. I really do like the idea. And then over time, if you want to bring her back, which of course they'll have basically no other choice but to do because of who she is. Over time you could slowly incorporate the other characters like Bunny, like Antoine, like Rotor, maybe even Dulce, Dulcie the dragon, and Lupe, if you want to go that far. But yeah, honestly see a scenario like this playing out. I really could. And honestly, I can't think of any other better scenario for it to happen in. I really can't. So, yeah. In closing, just wanted to do this little short video on it and podcast, because I'll probably try to get this in audio form too. I have to say I like the idea. I really do. I like the concept of how she could be introduced. And this, to me, sounds like a more legitimate way of doing it, instead of just being like, oh, here's the freedom fighters, and that's it. No. I like this idea better, because you're taking your time. You're introducing her to a new generation of fans that got into Sonic maybe towards the end of the Archie book, but more so now but I'm more into the Sonic comics thanks to IDW. I could see this being a good direction to go in, to introduce her to that new generation of fans, as well as reintroduce her to the older fans, the fans that have known about her since the days of Archie Sonic and Sonic ZAM, but also at the same time introduce maybe these new little quirks, if you will, about her, these new little traits about her as well, because that even though you'll try to keep her similar to her original personality, you're also going to want to add in a little personality traits here and there that are new, or maybe based off some personality traits that we got a hint of back in the book. Like, for example, one of her quirky personality traits is she's not a good cook. She tries, but she's not as good as she potentially could be. But yeah, I like the scenario. I like the idea, and I look forward to maybe seeing that idea become a reality. I really do. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Comment below, live chat during the premiere, like the video. Again, you will hopefully get a audio podcast version of this down the line at my BW Rosa's Discussions podcast, which you can find in all your favorite podcast affiliates except for Pandora. And yeah, that's really all I can say, guys, on it. But I do like the concept. I do like, the concept that I think is a more realistic concept and pitch that they could come up with to try to get her and the other characters eventually into IDW in the future. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are, and until then, talk to y'all later.